Today we're going to talk about one of the protein foods that we get, and that is milk and dairy products. So I want you to watch this screencast, and then there's just a couple of questions I want you to answer. So the MyPlate, or the USDA, says that you need 3 cups of milk or dairy foods every day. They also recommend that you eat calcium-rich foods like yogurt and cheese. And they would like us to switch to low-fat or fat-free milk. So if you're currently drinking whole milk has about 3.5% fat. 2% has 2%. That's why we call it 2% milk. 1% has 1%. Skim has about 0.5% fat. And then there's fat-free, which doesn't have any fat. So they would like us to switch to 1% or low fat, just so we can be a little bit healthier. So what counts as a cup? Well, obviously a cup of milk and then a cup of yogurt, so 8 ounces. 1.5 ounces of natural cheese counts as a cup. So natural cheese would be things like cheddar, Swiss, mozzarella, things that are natural. If it's processed, like American cheese, that doesn't contain as much actual cheese, so you have to eat a little bit more to get it to count as a serving. It's 2 ounces, and processed cheese would be like American cheese, things like that. And then half of a cup of cottage cheese actually counts as a cup because it's so concentrated. You don't have to eat quite as much cottage cheese as you do the other things. Now, milk contains these vitamins and minerals. It has calcium. Calcium is necessary for strong bones. It has phosphorus. It has iron. It has vitamins A and vitamin D. It also contains these nutrients. It has carbohydrates, protein, fat, and water. It is almost the perfect food. All right? It provides a substantial amount of all of the nutrients, and it actually can keep you very healthy if you have enough milk in your diet. Okay, a couple of vocabulary words. Lactose intolerance. This is where people cannot break apart lactose, and their body tries, it sends a bunch of acid to try and break those bonds. But because they lack the enzyme, they can't digest it, and they get gas and upset stomachs. Now, all milk that you buy in the grocery store has been pasteurized. And so pasteurization just means that milk is heated to kill the bacteria. So what they do is they run it through tubes and they heat it up to the high enough temperature to kill the bacteria, and then those tubes cool it down even faster so that it doesn't taste like cooked milk, because cooked milk kind of has a different flavor. So they just heat it high enough to kill the bacteria, and then they cool it down really fast. Next word is homogenization. Now, I know a lot of you, when you look at this word, you see homogenization. It's not, it's homogenization. And this is where the fat particles are broken down and then evenly distributed so it doesn't separate. If you have ever seen raw milk, like milk that comes straight out of a cow or straight out of a goat, whatever you're getting milk from, as the milk sits there, the fat rises to the top, and that's the cream. And it keeps doing that. Even when you spoon off the cream, the extra fat particles keep rising to the top. So we homogenize milk so that it doesn't do that. We break those fat molecules down so they're microscopic so that they don't float to the top and separate. And because if we didn't do that, every time you poured cereal, you'd have to scrape the cream off of the top of the milk. All right, fortified. Milk has extra nutrients added. So they add vitamins A and D to the milk. A lot of people are under the misconception that whole milk, the one that's sold with the red label, has vitamin A and D. They call it A and D milk. But all milk, whether it's whole milk, 2%, 1%, or even fat-free, has those extra nutrients added, the vitamins A and D. And so we call that fortified. Now, there is raw milk that you can buy from dairy farmers or a dairy farm. And raw milk just means that it's been unpasteurized, and typically it's not homogenized. All right, it is the same nutritionally as pasteurized milk. It just still has the bacteria in it. So if you're using that milk to make cheese or yogurt, it does contain potentially harmful bacteria. So use that with caution. But farmers have milked cows for hundreds of thousands of years and drank the milk and not gotten sick. So it's just a risk that you need to weigh for yourself if you want pasteurized milk or raw milk. Now, if you can't have milk because of your lactose intolerance or other milk allergies, we do have a couple of replacements. There's almond milk, soy milk, rice milk. There are tons of different things. It's comparable with milk nutritionally. They do add calcium and the same vitamins and minerals that like cow's milk or goat's milk contains. And it's a good replacement for people who are lactose intolerant. Now, because milk can contribute a lot of fat to our diet, we need to switch to low fat or fat free, and then substitute yogurt for mayonnaise or sour cream. Like if you have some plain Greek yogurt, it is very, very similar to sour cream, but it doesn't have as much fat and it actually has more protein. So if you can learn to make that substitution, you'll be healthier. Now, when you go to cook with milk, there are a couple of problems because of all of those different things we talked about, the fat and the protein that kind of happen as you start to heat up milk. So we're going to talk about the 5 problems that you have to avoid when you cook with milk. The first is scum. So what happens is as water evaporates, the protein floats to the top and it coagulates. And it forms scum, or I call it the milk booger. All right, you can see it's like a piece of skin sort of that floats. It's just protein at the top. You can pick it off and hold it. It's kind of slimy and squishy. All right, does it hurt you to eat that? No, it's protein. It's probably actually kind of healthy. It's just not appetizing. So how you prevent that is if you use a lid or you cover it, the evaporating steam will fall back in there and it kind of stops the scum from happening. Stir it constantly. Keep those protein molecules moving and they won't have a chance to float to the top. Once you stop stirring though, and you let it cool, you will get this skin on the top. And then third, use a medium heat. You should never cook milk on high. It should always be medium. All right, next is a boil over. So because we get this scum, we get the protein that floats to the top, it creates pressure underneath, and as the milk is boiling and boiling and boiling, it just kind of overflows because that scum is creating that pressure. So how you prevent it? Stir constantly, keep it on medium heat. All right, scorching. If the protein's floating to the top, then that milk sugar, the lactose, it sinks to the bottom and it gets trapped there and it burns. And so you can see in this pan that this burn mark is the scorched sugar from the milk. So how you prevent it is medium heat and stir constantly. Do you notice a theme yet? All right, curdling. So this is when you add any type of acid. So like if you were adding tomato juice or lemon juice, if you accidentally add too much salt, you denature the protein and you get these curds. It's how they actually make cottage cheese. All right, is they add an acid to it so they can get these curds. But if you're trying to make like cheese sauce or Alfredo sauce, something like that, that is not appetizing to have those clumps in there. So how you solve it is add any acid at the end of cooking time. All right, and then stir constantly. If you can keep the protein moving when you add the acid, you won't get those curds. All right, so those are the problems. I guess there was 4 problems, not 5. So go on, X out of the screencast, go answer the couple of questions, and I hope you guys have a great Monday. I will talk to you again on Wednesday.